Hello,
Okay,
hello.
going live. How's everyone doing? Anyone in the general vicinity of my microphone here, you might notice. I've got a lot in audio. LA 220 now.
Whoop.
It's what I've been testing over the last little bit. Yeah, and this is one probably the most requested microphone test that I've had on this channel is the lot in audio. So I'm looking forward to this. I know Sean's going to probably squirt his drawers. He's been asking me for this for some time. So, and Sean, if he asks if I mentioned him in the live stream, yes, I just did. And I also mentioned him squirting his drawers. Dan, how's everyone? Everyone looking forward to the weekend? Cheers, brother. Yes, I am. Beresford, my headphones broke. My mom wants to steal my clothes, but apart from that, everything's going well. How are you? Oh man, there we go. A little bit of Roadcaster Pro 2 action there with the
I was gonna
trombone.
say, you slimy bastard, you
Yeah.
with your pads.
Dan says cool new mic. Yes. This is a really nice microphone. The Lot in Audio, everything they do is just it's so nice. This is one of the most balanced microphones that I've ever used. Like by a mile. It is the high roll off and the low roll off combined to make it sound like a tube mic. It's beautiful. I love this thing. It's one of my new favorite microphones now. And I'm actually gonna do a little different. I'm gonna put a little bit more into this. I'm gonna actually do a song up for it, like a little verse and chorus. That's it. I also picked up this Portuguese ukulele. Dylan can't see it. It's a piece of work. Like this is a gorgeous instrument.
Oh
Dylan,
yeah.
you bringing up the live stream there, buddy?
Well, I just went over. Yeah.
All right. This didn't cost very much, but the work that they put into this is it's just so beautiful.
Looks very detailed.
It's twangy. It's what is it? It's got metal strings.
I was gonna say that's so weird. Ukuleles, I don't usually. In fact, if anything, I call ukuleles round. That's the word I use to describe ukuleles.
Well.
But that ukulele is definitely twangy. I've never heard a ukulele that sounds like that before.
Oh, shut up. Are you being serious?
No,
okay,
I'm being serious.
All right, I thought you were being a smartass. I'm like,
no, I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not trolling you. No, I'm being serious.
I have two ukuleles now that I can put. One is a North American standardized ukulele. It's a Gresh ukulele, and now I've got this thing. I'm gonna put them side by side to see. I believe my Gresh has the nylon strings.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I'm not on a computer with speakers right now. Just about ready to finish work, so I have to say shave already. Either or both of you. Yeah, that's the name of the shave. Busy week roundup and refusing to shave. It's the playoffs this week, guys. NHL playoffs kick off. My Toronto Maple Leafs are in it. They're up 3-2 against the evil Tampa Bay Lightning, and I don't necessarily think I'm going to be shaving tomorrow, but I do think I'll be shaving before Tuesday. If it helps, the playoff beard goes away as soon as your team does, and the Leafs, like clockwork, gone in the first round. So don't worry. I don't think the beard's going to be sticking around. My wife hates it. She hates it. And I shot a video I'm working the Lot in Audio video, and man, I look like crap. I just look like crap when I haven't shaved. So yeah,
most people do.
You do.
I've only gone.
What's that?
I've only gone. What?
What did you say? You cut out there.
Say yeah, I've only gone like a day, but as I get older, I find I'm getting a little bit more. It's a little quicker. It's a little. I guess stay on top of it, Like sometimes on the weekend I'll shave like 3 times a day.
I don't bother. It's not even worth my time. I shave once every few days. When I need to do a video, I try to shave. But now I'm like, I do have to shave my head. My head's getting ridiculous. I'm gonna look like a
man. I'm like 5 days a week. Around white collar corporate executive types in suits. I gotta always be somewhat sharp, which is annoying, but It is
Oh,
what
I
it is.
don't miss it. So how's everybody doing this week? We missed last week. I was in Toronto doing synchronized swimming. I wasn't doing the synchro. My child was. It would have actually, you know what? Maybe I should try synchronized swimming one of these days. You never know. I could be graceful. Sean says, I'm just watching the two of you mime a response. Yeah, there's a lot of face touching going on there, Sean. When you watch back, you'll understand, man. Also, Sean also missed the audible shout out I gave to him. Let's see if he picks up on the Lawton microphone. It does have the logo, plain and simple for Sean to look up. So, and I know he's a big fan of that. Yeah, I missed you too, guys. Friday, it sucks, man. I love going out supporting my kid for sporting events. It's great. The problem is you go to Toronto. We went Friday night because we had to be up 7 a.m. Saturday morning to get. They gel their hair back, and they use gelatin for it, like actual gelatin. And so you have to be up at 7 a.m. to do that. So we got up at 7. You spend a couple hours at the pool, and then nothing. And then you wait. Saturday night, I watched the Leaf game, that incredible comeback. And then Sunday, wake up and you go to the pool again. You watch your kid do the thing, and then you leave. And that's the whole weekend. So I basically sat there with my laptop kind of goofing around all weekend. I got all of my work done right up to that. So I had Mondays and Wednesdays video ready to go before I left on Friday. And yeah, it was just one big mess. And then get back, and then all the podcast editing I've been doing and stuff. So it's been a wild week. Like, it's been a ridiculous week. Dylan's had a little bit of a taste of that as well, working with a podcaster. So
yeah.
Any update? No, Hades. Okay, go ahead. What are we saying? What are you saying about?
No,
Tyler?
I was just saying it was fun. It was a fun little excursion out of the norm.
Yeah, Tyler's fun. Always fun because it's literally working in audio, but it's also podcasting. So you're like, it's a serious getup.
It's like I describe. Oh my God, so many people are gonna hate me for this. I describe like that tier of podcasting, kind of like para audio.
Yeah,
if that makes any sense. It's like audio, but not really. Like it's audio, but like on a diet.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, like from a technology standpoint.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not necessarily talking about skill. There's a ton of skill in podcasting. It's just kind of concentrated in a different area, more content based rather than format.
It's broadcasting. It's a level of broadcasting. So instead of it being like high end audio, it's high end broadcast audio. For guys like Tyler, yes.
Because with I look at something like, an SSL, like a J9000 console.
Yeah.
Like those things sound incredible. And they're relatively reliable, but they're not designed to never fail.
Yeah.
So, in a studio, you can be out of commission for a couple hours, no big deal. In a radio station, not really. Yeah. So a lot of this stuff is built on robustness and reliability rather than like fidelity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although I have to say again, the Wheatstone mic processor that I go through for this mic, I actually kind of like it. It's maybe not as versatile as some of the plugins I use, but it's for a hardware piece, it's pretty good.
Yeah. By the way, Hades has a great question, which I actually have an answer for. Hades wants to know any update on your second channel. Last I remember, you said the growth was amazing. It was. And whether or not he's in the room or not, I had to fire my my editor because he just wasn't it wasn't reliable enough.
He wasn't editing.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I don't mind picking up the slack once in a while and having to edit an episode, but my life just, if I can't have an editor, I can't have the channel. And so a lot of things kind of screech to a halt. And I was actually asking on our Discord channel whether or not anyone was an editor. And I know Dylan was an editor, but I also know Dylan's busy. So finally, I was like, you know what? Screw it, Dylan. Do you want to edit for me? And so Dylan's probably going to be editing the second channel from here on out, which means that I'll be able to get, like, I already have video shot. The problem is the editing phase. That's the time that I just don't have. I don't have the time to package that shit up. So Dylan's going to be taking over. Hopefully that works into something, because that would be nice, right? That's
Yeah, that would be a nice kind of little thing. Now, so for full transparency, I did suggest, and this is what we're gonna do, sort of a trial period, because I'm not an editor. I know
Yeah.
how to edit. I can edit. I understand editing. I know how to use an NLE, but it's not my occupation. So I'm
Yeah.
not stupid fast at it. And some things that might be immediately intuitive to a YouTube editor, I'm going to have to do some due diligence on for the first little bit. So we're going to do, an episode that's just kind of, again, to see, just to make sure that I'm the right fit for the role.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where, like, there's little things. It's the punch-ins. It's the
detail work.
Yeah, the character behind it. And once you get used to it, it's fine. But yeah, it can take a bit of time.
It's funny. Like, you and I talked about some of those things, and I was watching like a couple like videos, just talking head videos the other day about like HR stuff. And I suddenly noticed, as soon as somebody points out, like, oh yeah, people do this, and then I'm like watching the video, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what he's doing.
Well, it's hiding jump shots with punch-ins. So
yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I've just started doing a lot of that myself on this channel, because like I did the How Road Took Over the World video, which by the way got a lot of praise, including from like some companies, some people reaching out to me going, dude, that was awesome. And I'm like, this is what the whole second channel's about. But I even noticed like I was kind of sloppy because I was hurried to get that thing done. So like some of the jump cuts are a little rough where I would have reshot. But yeah, it's one of those, once you get it, once you start doing it, you can't not see it. You see it almost demystifies YouTube videos for you. So you start to see the inner workings of, even when you watch a Mr. Beast video, you're like, oh, that's what okay, I see that. That's a good thing to do. And you can actually pick up all these little traits along the way. And it's it's fascinating. It's also one of those things that it's a great, and I mean an absolutely amazing skill to have, to be able to edit videos. So Dan says, that's a shame. Really like your content on the second channel. Glad Dylan helping out. Yeah, you know what? That second channel has to move because the amount of growth in it so quickly. Like I had 3 videos out and I had 300 subs. And that wasn't even this channel, because I got those 3 videos out before I even told the channel about it. The growth on it was just amazing, and it's just hitting the right videos at the right time. And I've got a lot of content planned for that. It's just a matter of, am I okay over there?
Yeah.
I heard myself coming out of your speakers. So it's just a matter of getting that stuff up and running, getting the system going, and hopefully Dylan will be a part of it. Because you know what? If I'm going to be sharing money from a channel, I would most rather share it with Dylan than anyone else. And that's not a shot against anyone else. It's just, if I can give money to somebody, it would be Dylan. Sean,
Hi.
Can someone summarize for me the reason the second channel being paused? Yes, Sean, it's because I didn't have an editor. Do we have to sign that, though? I can sign language that, maybe. I don't know. Is Sean listening? He's asking somebody in the chat. Okay.
Oh.
Enjoyed the niche subject history topic videos. I'm sure Dylan will be great at it. Yeah, you know what? And it's not hard. I'll show.
Oh, man. That's like, I'm a P1 for that content, man.
Yeah.
That's totally going to be my niche.
But it's fascinating too, because it's not hard to put together. It's just fucking time consuming. Like it's really like getting the B-roll is the hardest part. It takes the longest. So wandering late, we'll watch in full later. Hey Dale, how you doing, brother? Andrew, our company came up with new braiding, but it looks like a sitting burn. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. A sitting bum. Oh, a sitting bum. Branding, not braiding. Okay, branding. I've seen a few of those sitting bum brandings. That's awesome, Andrew. Feel free to share in Discord if you can. I'd like to see it. Dan Aiden had to part with. That makes sense. And that's also like Sean. Was one of the people I was in talks with, because I know Sean's got some editing experience, and Sean also very, very, very busy. So it's one of those. We'll get to it. This week, I just got off a crazy week of doing a lot of editing for the Minds of Madness. And basically started early Tuesday, and it didn't stop until last night at 11. It was just like one steady flow of editing. So I'm hoping to get all that sorted out by next week and start sending Dylan some videos and maybe see what ends up coming out of that in the end. And there's at least gonna one drop, and hopefully, if it does work out, you guys will have some more content. It does make me feel good to know that y'all are actually watching that channel and like it, because that's part of. It's weird. Like this channel, I love doing this channel, but this channel's become easy, and I don't mean that in a way of like it's easy to, because it's not easy to do reviews and this and that, but there's a template for it now. I've done enough of these videos where there's an absolute template for doing a mic review, doing a board review, and it's still a lot of work, but in the editing process, it's not. The editing process goes together super quick. In this other channel, there's no template. So I can write the videos, I can perform the videos, I can do all that. I can even do the pre-edit, what you call is when you go through and you take out all the false starts, all the egregious breaths and stuff like that. I can do all that, and it takes me less than a day. But the final edit is like painstaking, minute at a time. And some of those videos were 14 minutes, which is changing, by the way. Those videos are going down to between 8 and 10, because I did notice a bit of pushback on the longer videos. We'll get a base before we start building out on that. But also find that list videos haven't been doing as well, and I'd like to focus on more like specific topics and subjects that we can hit on. So it'll be fun. Andrew, now that you've done the triple RE video, would you like to do the Generations SM7Bs? Yes, if I could find an SM7 and an SM7A, I would love to. Also, the 90s SM7B was different from this Generations SMB, right, Dylan? He's working. I can't hear you, buddy. You turned yourself off.
That would be the SM7A, if I'm not mistaken. I think the B revision came
in 2000.
It was either in the it was either in the 80s or like the early 2000s. I forget. It's been a while.
Well, but I do know they've made a revision.
Someone's gonna correct me.
But I do know they've made a revision to the SM7B as well.
There's technically like the SM7B Mark 1 and the SM7B Mark 2.
Yeah, I would love to get my hands on those. Yeah.
Oh man, can you imagine doing like a shootout video and seeing if there's like basically any difference at all other than like some structural improvements? Like I know the original SM7 didn't really have that mnemonic shock absorption on the inside, so it was a little bit less smooth.
Clunky.
Yeah. And then obviously the switches were added later on.
From what I know is they have done a lot of tuning to the capsule and everything. Like the Unidyne 3 capsule has been tuned over time, much like what Rode has been doing with all of their microphones, where they release kind of an upgrade. I am kind of chatting with Rode. I would love to get my hands on all of the NT1s since the 90s. So to get the all 5 generations, put them up right in front of me, and go back and forth between them, because I am really curious to see. I have been hammered by people who are like, no, you can tell an instant difference between the 4th gen and the 5th gen NT1. I can't hear a bloody thing. I can't hear a single tiny frequency that's out between them. They sound like the exact same microphone. And if maybe my ears just aren't tuned to it, whatever. I don't hear a bloody thing, but I do know when you go back 3 to Generation 2 and Generation 1, they have been tweaking the capsule. They have been tweaking the electronics inside of it. So the capacitors and stuff like that. So it would be kind of curious. Sean, the problem with the RA videos with the Canadian affiliate links didn't work, out of stock. Yeah, I know. I think they're trying to roll out. I'm not exactly sure, but EV does this before they released the RA20 Black. Everything went out of stock for a little while. So I think there might be something on the go. Maybe you do the mics of the U.S. president's video to get the U.S. audience. Maybe mics of the Secret Service too. I actually kind of want to do stuff like that. Like, that would be basically a showcase on the SM7B. The SM7B has been like the presidential microphone since God knows how long. And get the foam cover for it. I forget what they call it. I might do that. That would be a good story. That would be a good story to tell. Yeah, I think I might do that. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to keep Wednesdays open for story time or kind of this. something different than a review, something that kind of fills out the channel a little bit more. The one problem I did run into, and actually Dylan was laughing about this earlier, the drum kit I have I've got a little dynamic percussion drum kit. It's a little jazz kit. I know a professional drummer who actually uses this kit, so I don't feel weird about it being like a tiny little jazz kit, because if I know a professional that uses it, it's a decent kit. The problem is, and I can hear it in my headphones, there's a resonance to this room, especially when I get a little loud. Dylan, can you hear the resonance, by the way? You're off.
Yep.
Yeah, you can. You can just hear that, especially with that. Oh, when I go up, oh, damn, that's ugly. That is fucking ugly.
Oh, I wonder if they can hear it on the street. Or
can you guys hear that on the stream? So I'll do it again. 1 second. Oh,
now you just cut off.
You can hear my wife upstairs actually slamming stuff. Presidential mics are the SM57s. Yeah. Did I say SM7B? I'm sorry, SM57. My apologies. The SM57 with the little foam thing that they put over it. My bad. It's been a long week. Hades, I wish that I could stay and talk more about this. I think the good 4K camera, you could crop shots from wide to close and avoid many jump cuts. So my next camera, which is coming this summer, I'm going to be getting the Sony, whatever it is, the Mark IV. It's coming this summer. I'm doing it for 4K for those jump cuts, for those punch-ins. I know that a lot of like YouTubers like that really grainy punch-in because it's kind of funny almost in a way, but I really want to clean up, especially for doing the second channel stuff, where it's more kind of storytelling based, and I don't want it to look kind of grainy and crappy. Also, the low light performance. If you haven't noticed, Dark Corner Studios isn't a well lit studio, and I never really intended to do that from the beginning. But
it'd be kind of ironic if it was a very bright space.
Well, I'm a little jealous when I see Tom Buck's studio. Like, you look at Tom Buck's studio, and it's almost eye-searingly bright. It must be hard. His eyes must be bloodshot red by the end of videos, with all the friggin' lights that guy has in his studio. And I'm actually a little jealous of that. I'm a little bit jealous of how vibrant his set is. And here I've got just some LEDs going along, and it'll go through its iterations, but like, it's a dark set, and I kind of like that as well because it fits in with Dark Corner Studios. But yeah, this drum set, as we're talking about, was anybody able to hear that? No, I haven't heard anybody saying they were able to hear the drum set. One more time. When my dog stopped barking. Oof. It's just bouncing off everything now. Oh my God. I'm going to have to like drape that in a big heavy blanket, man. I am going with, I'm going to try to find a partition though, Dylan, so don't you worry. I recall something about microphones being used to communicate between submarines in the old days. Oh, that would be cool. Submarine mics, Dylan? I'm pretty sure we can run a drum kit through those.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah. The 57 clown nose does look great. My 57's kind of shot out right now and kind of beat up. I'm probably just going to buy a new one.
That's what they're for. Man, I've seen some of the worst 57s. Like, venues have them, studios have them, like guys have them in their gig bags. Those mics get the shit beat out of them.
Mine's missing the bottom screw for the XLR. So, yeah. And so once that's, like, I have the screw, I have the mic, but they don't just go back together. They don't just screw back in. You have to get it from inside the mic body and screw it in that way.
Oh yeah, well you have to like screw it all the way in, stick the thing in, and then screw it out slightly. It's weird.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass, and it won't go in for me. So I can't hear any resonance. Maybe it's my backup headphones. I can hear it. It's all, well, it could be YouTube stream too. Like, this is all going through Discord and all that.
Yeah, we're going through like double compression right now.
And I'm obviously I'm listening through my Rodecaster Pro 2. I'm not listening through the stream audio, so I can imagine it's probably all chopped off. But when I was doing the video for this microphone, I literally had to drape shit across the drums because just when I talk, you can hear the resonance right in the background. And that's embarrassing. To have a super quiet studio like this, and then all of a sudden fucking drums come in the door and wreck it. So I think I'm either going to partition it or I'm going to build a wall, and I'm actually going to wall them in. And I know that will probably drive my wife nuts if I do that. So, but I could build like a little 6x6 room back there. That'd be fine, right? And I could put the TV.
What are you going to make your walls out of?
Actual walls. Like,
oh man,
why? I'll just treat them inside.
It's gonna sound like shit.
Yeah, it probably will. All right, so
just the standing waves alone are gonna be.
Oh no, I wouldn't do perfectly 6x6. I would angle it and all that stuff. But yeah,
it's still
yeah.
I mean, if you didn't use drywall, if you just literally put, okay, so here's the thing. Do your basic wall construction, but instead of drywall, get like big sheets of like like a thin fabric and staple gun it to the studs on one side. And that way you're getting rid of that hard surface. I've been in studios that's basically what they've done. They just omitted the drywall and just put like a straight piece of fabric just to stop the fiberglass from coming off, right?
Yeah.
And it works.
Well, and you also
pretty well.
fill it with safe and sound, right? Like that's
or just your basic bat insulation. I mean, that's what people have done, and again, it works really well. It's because fiberglass insulation of any kind is basically acoustic treatment material. So as long as you have something to stop it from leaking fiberglass shards all over the place, then you're good.
Probably going to end up being is I'm going to store the drum kit somewhere where it doesn't resonate. That's probably going to be the answer to this because it's just. Like, I don't know how much I want to bring it in to be able to record certain things and then just get it the fuck out of my studio. Probably going to be the way I go. I want to get it set up first and I want to get it like kind of a setup pattern so I can just set it up quickly. And that shouldn't be too tough because when I'm going to record drums or I'm going to record, like one of the reasons I got this thing was so I can use it in mic testing. So like with the RE20, I would like to see how the RE20, the 320, and the 27 all deal with a kick drum. Because they're basically kick drum mics. Like, that would be kind of cool. Put them all one up against the other. And there are other microphones that you get that can work as kick drum. Or a snare mic. I have the LS308 by Lawton Audio. It's the condenser, the front address condenser. And it's apparently a great snare mic that even what's-his-name from Red Hot Chili Peppers uses. So, like, if that's something, I should be able to test that. And this is what it sounds like on a snare. This is what it compares to an SM57 or, whatever, a pencil mic or whatever you want to do. So I think this is going to be, like, the next stage, but I just have to figure out how to deal with the fucking drums in the meantime because they are annoying. Red Cabin says, when I get loud, my stovepipe rings. You know what? In my old studio way back, with the concrete wall and the wood behind me, I had some air ducts right above me, and they used to resonate if I got too loud and high. If I tried to sing in that environment, it would just like all you'd hear is this tinniness around my voice. It was real annoying. Dan says kids at work leave the snare on all the time, constantly running down to desk to switch it off. Oh, that's annoying. Oh, Liberty Dude, how you doing, brother? Welcome back, brother. I'm trying to find office cubicle walls, Liberty Dude. I can't, like, for the life of me. They go for like $500 here because everyone knows what people use them for. They're not for fucking cubicles. They're for sound. Sound.
Did you check GC Surplus?
I did, but you've got to buy like 30 office chairs with it all. Like you can get like this load of office equipment from the government of Canada. And it's incredible, like $5 and you'll get like 3 truckloads of shit, which will come with partitions. But then you also have to get the 30 chairs, the 4 desks, it's ridiculous. Like, so I'm probably just going to go buy one. There's a place that's open in Ottawa that I'm going to run down to. It's only open Saturday. Mike's Office Surplus or something like that. Because he does that. He buys those truckloads and then sells them off, which is a great idea. So I'm going to go down and
run a business off of that.
I'm going to go down and I'm going to go see what I can pick up. But good to see you back, Liberty Dude. Cheers, brother. I'm going to see what else I missed. It's a great idea, Sean. Clan-Nose looks great. Home time. See you, Sean. Have fun, buddy. I think that's everything. Fail. Hey guys, do you recommend Rodecaster Pro 2 for voiceover and audiobook work? Advantages, disadvantages. One last question. Which website service are you using to live stream this show? So first up, actually the Rodecaster Pro 2 works just fine. The EIN on it is neg 129, I think. When you don't take into consideration their wonky little numbers they use to market it. They were saying 131.5, but it's actually like 129, which is perfectly fine. The Scarlett 2i2 is 128, EIN neg 128. So anything around the neg 127 to 130 is going to be perfectly fine. Don't be doing voice work with the processing on.
That's what I was going to say. Is I feel like, I mean, certainly the Rodecaster Pro 2 would do the job, but it might be a little overkill, I feel. Because there's so much stuff in there you're never ever going to use that you're paying for.
Yeah, I have a feeling somebody like Fail is probably going to be using it for other things. I wouldn't suggest it if you're not using the rest of the board for shit. Like, it's even overkill for me. I don't do a 2-3 person podcast. I would love to have the time to do a 2-3 person podcast, but I don't have the time for it. I use it because it's an accessible piece that I can do this with it, like streaming. But once the Streamer X comes out, the Rodecaster Pro 2 is probably going to be relegated to my main gear. I'm getting a Mac Studio, and this is probably going to be hooked up to the Mac Studio. So it's like, it's not going to be my main gear because I don't stream with it. I'd love to. Like, this stuff is awesome. Oh yeah, look at that. Right? That kind of stuff, I would love to have this available for that, but it is overkill for me. So, offices closing or moving. Yeah, we got a lot of that, Liberty Dude, in Ottawa, but it's always like you either take all of the office or none of the office.
Yeah, which I get, because they don't want to get in the business of being a retailer. Like they're just like, we need to move product. We need to move product, guys. Like, you're either here. It's kind of like my parents inherited 10,000 books from like their parents. They owned a bookstore and they closed the bookstore, so they got 10,000 books. Set up a library, and then at one point we're like maybe looking at possibly trying to sell them. But the problem is people want to come in and they want to cherry pick.
Yeah, it's
like, no, you either take all the damn books for X amount of money, or you leave empty-handed. Get out of here.
Right?
Stop wasting my time.
So Hades says, speaking of the RE mics, why does Dylan prefer the 27ND and Aiden prefer the 320? Good question.
I don't really prefer anything. I just inherited this mic. I like it. Like, I don't really care. I mean, I used the Beta 58 last week, and after voiceover processing, barely freaking noticed the difference.
Yeah.
And like even. Yeah, I don't know. Speaking of which, sort of off topic, but microphones. And so I have had the ISO mic at work.
Oh, how's the ISO mic working for you, man?
And so I just use one of these little shitty like desk stands, the little silver, just the chrome metal ones with the little feet. I just have it sitting on I have a very large studio desk at work. Maybe I could take a picture and you can post it on the channel at some point just for a visual aid.
Great for voiceover.
But yeah, right. Just giant reflective surface. And so I've got it just kind of sitting there and, whatever. And so initially I have to say, I have no contractual obligation not to do so. But so I set it up on my desk, plugged into the Behringer X32 compact that's in my office. And I just turned all the processing off. I'm like, I just want to hear this thing just vanilla.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
No?
I didn't like it. I found it, and so I will say I got it to a good place. I did get it to a good place. It took a little bit of time. But one thing that I did notice about it that is weird for me for a condenser microphone is I really had to spend a lot of time just honing the low end.
Yeah.
Because the low end on that mic is not very good.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. So when I got a lot of people, a little bit of behind the scenes, when I got the IsoVox 2, the IsoMic was kind of an add-on. They're like, yeah, we'll send it to you as well. And they're like, we don't really need the review of the IsoMic. The review was for the IsoVox 2. The IsoMic was just cherries on top. But one of the things they said to me is they're like, do not use the IsoMic outside of the IsoVox. They said they actually had that in paperwork. Like, please do not use this outside of the ISOVox. And if you know anything about Erlen Mics makes the ISO mic. And Erlen Mics is a really high-end microphone company. This microphone costs $1,800 US. I think it's 1,200, or no, it's 1,800 Canadian, 1,200 US. But that microphone, I think Erlen Mic tuned it just for the ISOVox. I think it's tuned for that incredible boxiness inside that box.
You know what? What you're saying now makes complete sense. Okay, like I get that, but I'm not paying $1,800 for a one-trick fucking pony.
Well, I mean, but if you're buying into this system, the ISOVox system, and you want a microphone that isn't as boxy, you got to admit, when you put the ISOMic inside the ISOVox, you put any other microphone, it's super rich and boxy, right? Like everything's like.
I honestly haven't even tried the ISO mic and the ISOVox yet. Actually, I should at some point.
It's a lot more EQ-less than the other microphones that go in it. Like I've put a lot of microphones. The P420 in there sounded literally like you had to drop all of the EQ on the low end for it. It was just super boxy.
Honestly, like boxiness, super easy to deal with. Just use some kind of multi-band compressor or dynamic EQ, as they call them nowadays, and just have a dynamic band just around the 250 to 500. You know, that ballpark. And I sometimes split it up into two separate band shelves in that range, just to have a little bit more finite control on like the boxy and the super bassy. But like I've done several things actually in that ISOVox now with the Neumann U87 AI since you gave it to me, and I'm actually thoroughly impressed. It looks stupid as shit, but especially when you're standing inside of it. I feel like a printer. But it's it sounds good. Again, I used it, as I was telling Aiden, I used it to record like a jingle this morning for work, and I had 12 layered voices, 12 highly compressed voices slamming through a limiter. And I had my girlfriend in the kitchen doing dishes, which is like 50 feet from the door of the studio, and a humidifier kind of on blast that sounds like a box fan like 10 feet from the studio door. And you never would have known.
Nope.
You never would have known. And that ISOVox is like right by the door too.
Yep. And it's incredible how, like, and a lot of people are like, it's, there's so many things wrong with it. Yeah, but there's nothing else that does that. Outside of a Studio Bricks, which is like a $4,000 like voiceover booth, there's nothing else that does that. So why stop complaining and just get it if that's what you need? Like,
and I don't know. I might not record something like an audiobook inside it because the requirements for an audiobook are super stringent, as you know, as I know. And it's not impossible. I think you definitely could with some slight environmental modifications and considerations, but I wouldn't reach for it. I think for doing like a vocal on a song 9 times out of 10, unless you're doing like a growly metal thing, that I'd say it's probably quite suitable. I've used it for several applications now, and I like it.
All right, really quick, Gear Junking, how you doing, brother? Welcome. Sun Turtle says hello from Denmark. I'm going to Europe this year. I'm going to be in Europe in August. I want Denmark. We're going to be coming back to go to Denmark, I think, in a couple of years. But I'm going to be kicking around Scotland, and I'm actually having my birthday party in London on August 9th. So I'm looking forward to that.
Wait, London, England.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Europe. Yeah, Europe, London. Joey Greenwood, nice. Hey man, your video on how Rode took over the world was awesome. Thanks, man. A lot of people really loving that. And it's interesting too, because if you like that, you'll really like my second channel, Dark Corner Media. Because that's kind of the style that I want to do with that, because I need to get that storytelling bug out. I really love that style of video and that style of stuff. And I did a video, I think it was 2 summers ago, on Joe Rogan. And the video was basically like how Joe Rogan, became a $100 million podcaster. And I think I've taken it down since, because a lot of the messages I got when I did that was like, dude, stick in your lane. And it was the same style. Now I'm going to go over and I'm going to maybe rewrite it. Just maybe my writing's gotten a lot better, but not really, because I've been writing that shit since like 2016. So I'm gonna go back, rewrite it, and I'm gonna re-release the Joe Rogan video on my second channel. So there's a lot of like little things like that, and I just want to introduce it to this channel too, because you see audio haze. He had some breakout videos doing storytelling, like he's telling stories about different bands and how they got their sound they got and all that stuff, and that's the kind of shit I love doing, and it's cool to see he's doing it with a huge level of success, which is really awesome to see, because it shows there's a market for good storytelling, and I want to be doing that stuff. Mark Ispier, which is the best handheld dynamic microphone for singing in an untreated room? I don't even need to look at the options, because singing in an untreated room is a horrible idea, because the louder you get in an untreated room, the harder that your voice is hitting the walls and coming back at your microphone. So speaking in an untreated room, you can get away with that. If you're singing in an untreated room, oh dear God, you are going to have some horrible sounds.
Well,
Dylan?
okay, hang on though. Here's the thing. So, and this is coming from my live sound reinforcement experience, but generally in the live sound world, one philosophy of mixing is that the gain knob is kind of like the jaws of life. You turn the gain down, the jaws close. You turn it up, the jaws open. So one thing about singing is, unless you're singing ASMR, which I was going to say is probably not a thing. No, it's probably a thing. Your gain is probably going to be substantially lower than if you're talking. And if you're singing louder, your gain is going to be lower, and the mic's overall sensitivity thereby will be reduced. So even if you're, the whole idea of like, oh, well, if it's an untreated room is worse for louder things. I would say loud, abrupt things like drums, yes.
Yeah.
Because drums need to have a very controlled a release to them, to those transients, and a room kind of takes away that control. And that's a really vague way to describe how drums, the magic of recording drums. But I think, the SM7, I've used it, and again, it's not advisable. Everyone here is right. If you can treat your room, treat your room. But there are several reasons why that might not be an option for you. Budget, practicality. If you're renting, you're not going to be making holes in the wall.
Closet,
right? Closet. Or like if you're in an old house, like some people in older buildings that have like clay walls.
Yeah.
Your landlord doesn't want you poking holes in shit. And if someone's going to tell me that you can effectively treat a room with command tape, I am open to the idea, but I'm gonna need some pictures.
Yeah.
I can't picture that.
Dan says, I love my Isovox. I use the OC818 in it. I'm still waiting to get that. Liberty Dude, Canadian making is a required pilgrimage to yell at the king. I think it's actually part of it's a birthright that I missed out on yelling at the queen, so now I'm just gonna yell at the king. Eli, what do you think is the best Samson mic? This is controversial. And I'm going to get a lot of crap for it. The Samson G-Track Pro is really good. The G-Track Pro, price to performance, you're going to get a great experience out of that, and you can also defend your house with it. Other than that, price to performance, the Q2U. The Q9U and the Q9X, I don't think they're down to like $99, and I keep getting a lot of people like, well, would you buy it now? No, I wouldn't, actually. Personally, I wouldn't. But that's not what you can go out and buy the Q9U for $99 and probably get a pretty decent mic. Just learn how to EQ it. Use the button. It's got that the presence, not the presence boost, but the mid-range boost. Use that, and it'll sound better. But no, I have no interest in it. I actually just gave my Q9U to my son, so he's using the Q9U now. But yeah, I think honestly, the best price to performance is either the Q2U or the G-Track Pro, which is actually a really nice mic. It looks like a Yeti, and I think that's the one thing going against it. It sounds better than a Yeti though. Sun Turtle, I have a question. We have a band that need 5 mics for this year. We have 3 SM58s and 2 XM8500s. Is the XM8500 good enough for a band playing live? Yeah, it's fine. They have off-axis issues for presence. The presence drops way off. When you get slightly off-axis, the presence is gone. So as long as everyone's on axis and they're singing directly into the microphone, you'll be fine.
Well, so there's something that's kind of nice about that though. Okay, and again, this is I've got lots of PTSD from years years dealing with bands and horrible venues and subpar budgets. But so the nice thing about having a mic that drops off presence very aggressively when you get off axis is that most of the frequencies prone to feedback, which usually in many cases are multiples of the power cycle frequency, so in our case 60 hertz.
Yeah.
But a lot of those the really high, like that, or like they're higher than that, but I'm not going to attempt to do that on the stream. But those frequencies are covered in that. So if you've got a mic that drops off in sensitivity to presence, that might also make that mic in many situations less prone to certain very annoying EQ or feedback frequencies. So normally in a live venue, what I try to do is get there with like a 31 band graphic EQ and sit there for an hour and just start bringing shit up until I hear feedback. But sometimes you don't have access to that kind of stuff. So what can you do? Well, maybe an XM8500. That might be a cost-effective solution. Yeah, and B, it could work.
And that's a big deal. Like, nobody's going to be sitting there listening to the show going, God, they're not even using SM58s. We're leaving, right? So, I mean, you're not going to, it's not as clear and as detailed as the SM58, but I don't think anyone's going to give a shit. Samson as a Q2U is the king of budget. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Pretty sure Rode took over the world with the Rode Procaster. Take a blow on the head from that and you'll go down. It's part of my zombie survival kit. Yeah, the Procaster is awesome. Yeah, I don't think anyone really saw them coming before the Rodecaster Pro. Like they were doing a lot of cool stuff, but I mean, there wasn't anything that was like, oh my God, these guys are going to destroy. But they were the first company to really take podcasting seriously. No one else. Well, I do mention the video, the Tascam. By the way, I ordered that Tascam. It's the Mini Studio US 42B. I've got it over here. I've got to do a video on that. The world's first podcast interface. And I think I might give it to a buddy of mine up in Brian Adam. I might give that to him because I think he's starting a podcast. So I'm going to send that right to him after I'm done the review, as long as it doesn't suck ass. But yeah, like they were the first ones to really take it seriously. So, and also make it dog shit simple. We need a mic on a drum and a guitar and 2 vocal mic. Oh, 1 mic on a drum?
Maybe. I don't think, maybe it's like a hand drum. Maybe it's not like a kit.
Okay, on a drum, not drums. Okay, that's fair. All right.
I don't know. I'm hoping, because 1 mic on a drum kit in a not treated space is a horrible idea.
I missed this from Zerafael, but sorry to cut you off, Dylan. Zerafael wants to know which service we're using to live stream the show. We just use Discord. The Discord audio and video. So this is all Discord. The Dylan's video is coming through Discord. So when I move him around, this is just a Discord. You can see down here. See, this is just a Discord video. Mine is actually, I use my camera, through, I forget what they call it. The, Camlink 4K. And then, yeah, everything's done through OBS. So OBS is like the thing that puts it all together. So you got to learn how to use OBS. I suck at it, but OBS is a pretty powerful tool for it. Cheers, man. Sorry for missing that earlier. Sun Turtle is Stieg Muller, super cool hippie band. Stieg Muller. I've heard that name before. Anyways.
Stieg Muller.
Eli, yeah, Zerfell Riverside is really, really good. If you want to do long shit or you want to do a lot of it, you end up having to pay. I like putting this all together myself because it's free.
I mean, Clean Feed works too. We've used that.
Feed is for audio. Clean Feed is the shit,
and it's free, and you can use it as much as you freaking want. Like, there's a few features you can't use, but it's still plenty useful. Clean Feed. I didn't say that.
Yeah. Eli says, what type of boom arm is good for the Samson CO1U Pro? One that connects to the desk or a separate stand. I use the Rode PSA 1 Plus. Any will work for the Samson. You can go get a Neewer arm for the Samson. The only rule I have is generally don't put a microphone that's more than 4 times more than the boom arm. So if you're putting a $500 mic on a boom, you want to make sure that boom arm is at least a quarter of that price. Okay. That way you're kind of, being careful with your investment. If you go and put a $500 microphone on a Neewer, that's your own funeral. I meant the dynamic microphone Procaster to be used as a weapon. Yeah. No, I know. That's a good, I've held one of those, man. It doesn't have good reach, but if you hit somebody with it, they dying. Rode naming system is confusing. I'll agree with that too. But at the same time, who the hell's going to argue with them at this point? That's the one shot you got against Rode. You're like, yeah, well, your names are stupid. I think
as a company, they're probably doing okay at that point.
Yeah, they don't really.
If that's your one critique.
They've got like a boggle set and they're just like, pop. And they're like, what's it called this time? It's the Blorp. Okay, it's the Blorp.
They name their stuff like Pfizer names their stuff.
Well, you know what? I think it would have been different if they could go back. The Procaster. What was the other one? They had the Procaster and they had the broadcast. Not the broadcaster. The Procaster. I can't remember.
I was going to say Fender had the broadcaster.
Yeah. But I think they would go back knowing that they had the Rodecaster Pro coming. I think they would have probably done that a little bit differently. Rode Podcaster, Broadcaster, Procaster. Yo, so they do have the Rode Broadcaster and versus Rodecaster Pro. Yeah, it is. It's one of those where if you're not paying attention to what you're saying, you're saying the wrong thing. So yeah, I agree with you. Very famous Danish folk singer. I think I've heard them before. Okay, so Hades is just digging deep on this RE27. Why you use it as a primary mic? I'd love to know that. What general EQ works well on it. General EQ doesn't work voice to voice, Hades. I'll just cut you off there. You have to sculpt EQ to your voice. EQ isn't relative to the mic. It's relative to the voice going through the microphone.
Honestly, EQ is relative to the entire snapshot of the signal chain. It's relative to the room. It's relative to the voice. Yeah. It's relative to the time of day. The voice is like I never just set a preset on an EQ and leave it. Usually I'll have a good foundation. Like the EQ that I use for my own voice is great, but I probably have like 6 or 7 at least different versions of that I use as starting points and then make adjustments. Like if I'm recording in the morning and my low end is particularly shitty and not smooth, which is very common for me early in the morning, I'm really going to kind of dig into that and try to solidify it with some multi-band management. But
yeah, so he basically uses the RE27ND because it's the simplest in his process.
Okay, so this is gonna make some people mad. So I don't use this mic for anything other than talking to people. And so I don't use this mic for recording, almost ever. And I know that's very sad for some people. And obviously it's perfectly suited. And I figured it would be a good fit for that because it's a broadcast mic. Broadcast microphones are good for talking to people. That's kind of what they're made for. And this is, by the way, this is the old school definition of broadcast mic, not our current modern definition of broadcast mic, which seems to basically have no definition at this point. But anyway, so this is this is just for recording stuff. As far as EQ and general processing, this guy right now is going through a Vorsys M2 mic processor, which is a digital hardware mic processor by Wheatstone. Vorsys is, I think, is just a subsidiary or a brand name of Wheatstone.
Yes.
And on that, there's a number of things. I couldn't rhyme off the settings because it's all software controlled. There's no controls on the unit itself. It's just digital meters. That's it. So I'd have to dig in, but I know there's a 4-band multi-band compressor in there that's working on this. There's a gate. Actually, a pretty good gate, a gate that's a lot smoother than some analog hardware gates that I've used in the past. And then there's a compressor, a normal broadband compressor, and then I believe a de-esser, and it's got like 95 dB of gain. So,
hey Dylan, I'm going to piss a lot of people off here. Okay, so if you were to sum up the amount of money that you put into a Zoom microphone. Essentially, this is what this microphone is. It's a Zoom microphone. You use this for Zooming your coworkers. Yep. How much money is the audio chain outside of the computer? We don't need to know the computer. Just the audio chain that microphone is being used as a Zoom microphone. How much?
About 5,000.
So
about $5,000. Oh wait, no, with the so with the mic, yeah, probably still around 5, maybe 5,500.
a $5,500 Zoom mic. Everyone else has got one of those like little like the neat
And I'm on a $50 webcam.
That's my favorite too. I love that. Well, but this actually brings up an interesting point for audio versus video. I would much rather have good audio from you than decent video. I don't care. It's a $50.
I've actually been looking at getting some. There's like this OBS mic thing that's got some sort of AI PTZ functions that I want to play around with.
It's face tracking. It's actually quite good.
Yeah, so I might get that. So, but just for this purpose of conversation, my main mic, I have two. So going in Joey Greenwood's direction, so for more sensitive recordings, I've got a U87 AI and that Isovox back there. Works like a charm. No issues with it. Also been messing around with this OC16 back here that Aiden has lent me. And I'm liking that as well. And then behind me, sometimes I've got a Vanguard V13 just out in the room that I'll use. Sometimes the sound of this room, believe it or not, even though it's a drywall box, is not bad for unplugged stuff. It actually kind of adds nice ambience if I stick the mic right in the middle of the room.
Nice.
And record it there for an unplugged kind of situation. It adds a nice non-linearity to the sound of the voice that's not like obnoxious. It doesn't add any standing waves or anything into the feed because there is a little bit of very light treatment in this room.
Yeah.
That grabs onto some things, and there's a carpet.
Now that
but anyway,
now that I've given you the box, the Isovox.
Yep.
Are you still going to be treating that room, or you just fuck it?
I will eventually. Again, I don't reckon I'm going to be living in this place for a ton longer. So investing in treatment material to the dimensions of this room seems unwise. Although obviously if I get a certain kit, if I'm in a bigger room, if I'm in a smaller room, I can just store the remaining panels. If I'm in a bigger room, I can just add to it. So it's not a massive deal, but the Isovox will allow me to hold off. I can still get pretty good mixes in this room. I might, drop a couple $100 into some just on the sides.
Yeah.
To just for stereo management. But yeah, other than that, I'm not. It's not as high a priority now.
Oh, that's good.
So I got. But most of the time when I'm doing voiceovers,
when I voice over,
when I'm doing voiceovers, SM7B all the way. SM7B right here in my mixing position, no problem. I've done little edits to like national advertisements for pretty large companies on this guy. I've done songs. I've done songs that have hit some pretty decent numbers on this guy. It's harder to do stuff with an SM7. You really have to know what you're doing with an audio signal in some situations to get an SM7 to sound good. Not for voiceovers. For voiceovers, generally, you can get pretty good sound, a pretty detailed sound out of an SM7 without a ton of work. But certain styles of vocal, like when I try to use this SM7 for an acoustic thing or piano ensemble situation, which I've done, it needs a lot of TLC. Like sometimes I'll have like two kind of Pultec style EQs, like one after the other, and then I'll have like a your normal paragraphic EQ. Like it definitely, something like if I were to record on a U87 AI for something like that, it would be more flat. I wouldn't have to do much to it, but it's not impossible.
Oh, Hades, cheers, brother. Last one from you guys. You both have experience with podcasting. Do you have any advice with production? Enjoyed the stream. Keep it simple. Podcast production is basically a broadcast concept. Keep it simple. Make sure you're editing everything out that people don't want to hear. That's the biggest thing about it, man. If you take in a lot of breaths while you're podcasting, take the fucking breaths out, man. Make sure that the audio is really easy to listen to, and you're golden. Podcasting, or the other thing is get yourself an engineer. Get yourself somebody that can edit it for you. Otherwise,
so I will say, I think in the sort of the spectrum of prowess, I would put, from a technical standpoint, and this might surprise you, but I would put like a radio producer, like just a little hair of a step below podcast producer.
Yeah.
in terms of sort of technical prowess, because the requirements for a podcasting studio and a radio production environment are very similar. The requirements, in fact, the studios are pretty much interchangeable. However, I think on the radio production side, I've seen in some markets, I've seen like smaller budget stations. I'm not going to throw out any companies, but Aiden, you know the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
And like the things in those buildings that pass for a production studio, like a glorified broom closet with like some egg carton taped to the wall, and I'm like,
yeah,
God.
I'm still,
and they still crank it. They make money. They make stuff and they sell it to clients and they make money.
Yep.
Like somehow, you know, recording in Audacity or an Adobe 1.5. You know,
and
that's not a joke. I was in a studio recently in a station and they were still running Adobe 1.5.
Oh,
on
what's
like Windows
Trevor
Vista.
Shand still uses 1.5. Trevor Shand, by the way, is probably one of the most infamous producers in U.S. radio. Still works at K-Rock in L.A. Was the voice of Kiss FM in Canada for the longest time.
And Jack even at a point.
Yeah. And dude, you still uses Adobe 1.5. Audition 1.5. It's incredible. I've been saving up all of my egg cartons, by the way, to try to do a test comparing egg cartons to Amazon foam to Orlex. And I still haven't figured out how I'm going to pull it off, how I can get the natural resonance if I have to go into a closet and coat it all with it or what. Dylan, I might reach out to you for that. But we're at the end of our time. It's 6:15.
Oh, my goodness.
This has been fun. This is a good week, man. I reckon if you listen to this, you are probably better than 90% of podcasts as you likely give a shit. Yeah, it's true, man.
Oh, yeah. And again, that's not to say that there aren't incredibly skilled podcast producers out there. I'm talking about like the bare minimum required to create a professional product. That's all we're talking about here. We're not talking about like, obviously there's tons of podcast producers that could do circles around me. Yeah.
Dan, I bought a Conductive Labs NDLR today. They've been hard to find a while, but the company released some stock today. Synthesizer stuff. Don't worry. Not worried. What I will say is actually the podcast, if you guys have ever listened, if you like true crime, check out The Minds of Madness. The main editor, and I'm going to have to give props, Tyler and his wife, Beck does the editing for that podcast. She's got 25 years in the TV industry. And like just yesterday alone, because I've just been doing their pre-edits for them and kind of shipping it off to them, making sure that the pacing's right and all that stuff, getting the clips up and running. And I was talking to Tyler last night and I was listening to some of his wife's editing and what she does with music and the way she swells it at times. And it's very cinematic. And you don't get that in a lot of podcasts. But when you listen to hers and if you really listen tight to what she does with the music, it's like, holy fuck, that's on another level. Like I'm not even doing that. And I'm editing for them. Like I do their Patreon episodes. I do their, like, I'm just taking over one of their main feed episodes next week. And I'm like, fuck, I can't do that. Well, I can, but it's going to take me 40 fucking hours. Cause it's such.
Oh, honestly, dude, that's one of my favorite like when I'm doing like, especially a long form content piece, like I got a couple choices of ways that I can introduce complexity into the arrangement of it. I can, the messaging is obviously number one. If you can write a good content, like just in terms of the message, you don't really need to focus on anything else. A good message will carry it.
Yep.
But, to add to that, I could do some sound effects, some soundscaping. I love doing soundscaping. But music as a tool to tell a story, especially in a dynamic way. Like even if it's a 30-second advertisement, like sometimes I'm slicing and dicing like 8 or 9 edits of and some volume adjustments during certain sections that need to feel have more of a pulse to them.
But the problem is this is a 1-hour piece of audio that has to be done in a couple days.
And finding the right music in and out, that part. That part can take hours. Like there are some days where I will literally sit there with 4 different music services open that we pay for, and I'll be scanning through tracks and you trying to experiment with different keywords, right? We play the keyword game. Like, how do I get that sound in my head in a bed?
Yeah.
And yes, I could make it, but that would take literally hours.
Yeah, and that's the problem. Like when you're up against the clock, like I need to get it done in a couple days because one, they need to get it and do what they need to do it.
Dude, now we're like same day turnaround on a lot of stuff. So I don't have a couple of days to make a track. Like, you know, even jingles now generally get rushed to be like a 2-week process.
Jesus.
In some cases like a 4 or 5 day process, depending on again what the expectation is.
Jesus. All right. Well, okay, guys, we're now almost 6:20. So have a good night. Cheers. I've got to go do an SPCA thing. Long story. We'll see you next week. I will be here next Friday, I promise. And we should have the review of the Lot and Audio LA 220 coming out on Monday. Have yourself a great weekend, guys.
Yep.